there's more and more dependency on the technology than there is the knowledge of it. I think that I had that emphasized a little bit in Korea when we made the landings in Korea. And I was running an operating room when they made the landing and trying to cover 3. They put the troops ashore and then brought the injured ones out. First thing that happened was that the anesthesia machine, which they had shipped for the service, didn't have a valve on it and couldn't be used. And the second thing was that the drugs that they needed to do it were not capable. So the only thing I had was the local anesthetic drug and a syringe, and could adapt it, do the local anesthetic for it, put this in the operating room, put a corpsman watching it, go to the next one, feeling perfectly safe. So I believe what I'm coming around to, I believe, is that the technology emphasis that is currently there is the same thing when you call up and they tell you the computer's down. It doesn't help in the operating room. Right. I was in World War II as a corpsman, so didn't do anesthesia, went back to med school just in time to get to go to Korea. So that, and that time they were a little short, so that there was collecting all the Marines at Camp Pendleton and putting this group together, and went to Incheon. So that we then had the experience of, it was a APA, which is a landing ship with the troops that put them in the little boats, go ashore and dump them and come pick up any others and bring them back. And so that we were sort of the first line until they established them, either the airfield or they could go to the one to Japan. So it was, it really impressed me from the standpoint that I felt pleased, that a way I could handle 3 operating rooms safely and turn them over to you or something like that.
So did you teach yourself those techniques, or did you had you learned them in medical school?
Well, at that time, I'd had 1 year of anesthesia.
Oh, you were, okay.
With Dr. Moore.
Okay, okay.
So that I could do some of those techniques, but I'd have been lost, and because the only other thing you had on board ship was the book. And so that...
And which book did you have?
Well, that one was Regional Anesthesia that Dr. Moore had,
Okay.
that was often criticized because it was a cookbook, so-called. This is the way you do it. And I always think of going to visit in an operating room, this nurse anesthetist, once again, if you're in the service. And here is the surgeon who was needed to do the anesthesia, and he has regional anesthesia on a Mayo stand and doing it just exactly like a cookbook.
Sure.
So that it was meeting a need when you were trying to teach nerve block anesthesia at that point. You didn't have the whole thing. The other one, of course, was John Benika's The Management of Pain, which is just sort of the opposite. It was about this big. It's a tome and it has it all in it, but each met a different need for trying to teach nerve block anesthesia. It was built on how-tos. It was built on how to perform the blocks. So the volunteers have done it.
How did you go about teaching a tactile thing without being able to touch what the learner was touching? Because I find that to be so challenging nowadays, to teach them what it's like to feel what, you know, like the first time they do an epidural. How do you explain what that feels like?
Well, any new technique that you learn playing the piano, the first time you do it, you know how you're supposed to lift up here. The same way here is that you're, how do you hold the syringe? That's why ASRA has been very good in teaching hands-on. Initially, probably within that first 5 years, the greatest improvements in building it up was the hands-on technique. They went from going to a lecture with Labat to going to the ASA course, same one we have here, weekend ahead, but instead of the lecture, that they went to 8 people so that everyone who went to the thing had a hands-on.
Who would you call your mentor?
Dan Moore, probably.
Yeah.
Because he was when I graduated from med school and went to Virginia Mason, Dr. Moore was the head of the anesthesia department. And he had just come out of the service and had written a book, Regional Anesthesia, and feels strongly about it. So that my going to work with him for 40 years, I would say that Dr. Moore had to be my mentor. I think if I were to say that the most unique block that would be my favorite, and I've had it, is the intercostal celiac plexus block, which makes your abdomen numb. Governor of Alaska came down very, very sick. They didn't think we could tolerate an anesthetic. And just simple block of doing the intercostal blocks. It takes 8 on each side to make it numb. Wow. But he's awake and could do a large operation. Wow. It's one that is ignored a lot because it takes time, and it's not one that's commonly done. But I think that to bail out of an emergency situation, it would be my favorite.